Zhang, How to Escape Retirement. If you were to hold a knife to her throat and demand she confess to at least one grievance, Yuan would say the dragons, especially the old ones who never bothered to keep up with the times and expected to be spoon-fed answers from books. She doubted they knew how to read, never mind how to extrapolate an extinction-preventing solution from historical references. They'd barge in, demand a stock of books, empty the entire dragon section, and for whatever reason, proceed to take out the entire D-shelves, from dads to dungeons too. And still, the dragons met their demise via some hero, rogue volcano, without returning her books or paying the fines. But that was if you were to hold a knife to Yuan's neck. She considered herself quite level-headed and zen for the most part, even when it came to the bureaucratic rules she had to follow to continue receiving funds for books, tablets, 3D printers, and soundproof walls. Besides the elderly dragons, nothing truly irritated Yuan. Truly. Yeah, so I thought of this story because I wanted to write about a librarian. Everything else kind of came after that, or while I was writing. Of course, I won't deny some of the sentiments in the story that come from my personal feelings on work, retirement, and the general slog of corporate America. Yeah, the story is primarily about a really, really tired librarian who has to deal with running a library at the intersection of many universes, and, per the title, kinda wants to retire. Yeah, so the advice I'm about to give is what everyone says: read a lot, write a lot, and if you're really serious about writing, when you read, try thinking about what the story is doing well rather than just reading for entertainment. I think that also kind of sucks out the joy of reading for entertainment, but it's very helpful for improving your own writing. Yeah, so the first thing I would say is take advantage of speculative and slipstream elements to enhance your story, especially emotional points that you might not always be able to get across with the confines of reality. That might seem kind of loaded right now, but as you write, especially if you're writing realistic fiction, there are some situations that are just very difficult to get into and put your characters into, and you have much more flexibility with speculative. So always think of speculative elements as a mechanism of carrying forth an emotional truth rather than being, I suppose, the focus of the story. And the second piece of advice I would give is try watching some anime. It has a lot of cool slipstream things that are very inspirational. Yeah, I used to write more realist fiction, but then I started gearing off into the speculative territory about 1.5 years ago. And I found that speculative fiction was definitely more liberating and more exciting to me than realistic fiction, which can also be fun, but I guess in that point of my writing career, I was ready for something different. Perfect. So there's this anime called Sunny Boy, Sunny spelled Sonny, and it aired in 2021 by Madhouse Animation Studio. And it's probably the pinnacle of what I would think of slipstream, because as I was watching it, I felt like I was in some kind of fever dream. But it's interesting because it starts off in a very realistic setting where the students are at a school, but then they're suddenly transported into this alternate dimension, which has its own weird rules and weird physics, and you kind of discover them as the characters go. But they use this world to really navigate their own relationships with each other and themselves. So all these students have their own personal problems. So it's ultimately like a very real story, just with a bunch of dimension jumping, which is what I really liked about it. Sure. I'm working on a novel that is currently on submission, but I have two chapbooks followed by 30 West Publishing, and also a kind of a short e-chapbook that is published online only called Absorption by Harvard Review, and you can find them both on my website.